On a sprawling ranch that seemed to stretch endlessly under the vast blue sky, Clara worked tirelessly from dawn till dusk. She was a young woman with sun-kissed skin and calloused hands, a testament to her life dedicated to hard labor. Clara was well versed in the rhythm of ranch life, moving from one task to another, her mind filled with dreams of a better future. Each day she tended to the horses, mended fences, and helped with the cattle. Despite the sweat on her brow, there was a quiet strength in her spirit, a determination that shone through her humble demeanor. As she hoisted a bale of hay onto her shoulder, she often noticed a rugged man working alongside the other laborers. His name was Jack, a figure of mystery and strength. He had a rough exterior with deep-set eyes and a chiseled jaw, but there was an undeniable kindness in his demeanor. Clara had initially assumed he was just another worker, struggling to make a living like she was. She found herself drawn to his quiet confidence, enchanted by the way he exchanged laughter with the others during their breaks. It intrigued her, and she couldn't help but admire the ease with which he navigated the hard work. Clara would catch snippets of their conversations, exchanging gentle teasing and shared stories. She cherished these fleeting interactions, each one adding to the warmth she felt in her heart. There was something unspoken between them, a chemistry that hung in the air, palpable yet unacknowledged. When their eyes met, Clara felt a spark that sent a thrill through her, and a blush would creep up her cheeks. The simplicity of their exchanges, like the shared laughter over a spilled bucket of water or the playful bickering over the best way to round up the cattle, made her heart race. One sunny afternoon, while they were taking a break beneath the shade of a sprawling oak tree, Clara found herself stealing glances at Jack. He was sitting a little apart from the others, his gaze lost in the horizon, and she wondered what thoughts occupied his mind. He seemed so at ease with the world around him, every muscle in his body relaxed. Clara wondered if he felt the same connection she did, or if she was simply projecting her feelings onto him. The uncertainty made her anxious, yet excited. "Hey, Jack," Clara called out, her voice breaking through the quiet afternoon. "What do you dream about when you're not working?" The question surprised her, but she felt compelled to know more about him. He turned his head slowly, and their eyes locked. For a moment, the world around them faded, leaving just the two of them in their own bubble. Jack's lips curled into a slight smile, his expression softening. "I dream about having my own piece of land someday," he replied, his voice steady and calm. "Somewhere quiet, where I can raise horses and live off the grid. A place where I can be free." Clara nodded, captivated by his words. They painted a picture of a life filled with passion and purpose, contrasting sharply with the reality they faced. "What about you?" Jack asked, his curiosity piqued. Clara felt a rush of warmth at his interest. "I dream of travel," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "I want to see the ocean, feel the sand between my toes. I want to find a place where I truly belong." Jack watched her intently, and for a moment she thought she might see a flicker of understanding in his eyes. Days turned into weeks, and their shared moments became the highlight of Clara's days. Each gentle brush of their hands while passing tools, each playful challenge to work faster or better, deepened her feelings for him. Yet, there was a lingering doubt in the back of her mind. She sensed a distance in Jack that contradicted their connection. Was he truly the man she believed him to be? Or was there something else lurking beneath the surface? One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with hues of orange and pink, Clara overheard Jack speaking with one of the ranch hands. She was stacking crates nearby, but the rhythm of her task halted as she caught snippets of their conversation. "I'll have to keep up the act a little longer," Jack said, his voice low, filled with a weight Clara couldn't quite understand. "I can't let anyone know who I really am until I find someone who loves me for me, not for what I own." Clara's heart sank at his words. The realization hit her like a cold wind. The rugged man she had grown to admire, her companion, her confidant, was not just a laborer but the owner of the ranch. Confusion and betrayal swirled within her, mixing with the affection she felt. How could he deceive her like this? Was everything they shared just a facade? Clara felt a knot tightening in her stomach as she struggled to process this new information. The idea that Jack had hidden his identity only deepened her feelings of vulnerability. Her heart raced as she contemplated her next steps. How could she confront him? What would she say? The thought of losing the bond they had built filled her with dread, but the sting of his secret weighed heavily on her mind. Was it worth pursuing the connection she had with him if it was based on a lie? She could feel her chest tighten at the thought of confronting him, but she knew she couldn't keep silent forever. As the last rays of sunshine disappeared, casting a blue hue over the ranch, Clara made her decision. She would find Jack and demand the truth. She could no longer ignore the shadows lurking between them. It was time to confront her feelings and the man who had captured her heart, even if it meant risking everything. If you're enjoying this story, make sure to subscribe to the channel. The journey was only just beginning, and Clara was determined to uncover the truth. As Clara continued to toil under the sun, the days melted into weeks, and her bond with Jack grew deeper. Their shared laughter echoed through the ranch, a beautiful melody that played in her heart. Jack was not just a figure in the shadows of the barn anymore. He had become a vital part of her everyday life. Clara found herself eagerly anticipating their encounters, counting the moments until she would see him again. One afternoon, they were tasked with repairing a broken fence at the far end of the ranch. The sun blazed overhead, but the warmth of their companionship made the heat bearable. Clara noticed how Jack's hands moved skillfully, his fingers calloused yet gentle as he worked on the wood. "You know, you're really good at this," she said, admiration bubbling in her voice. Jack flashed her a grin, a spark of confidence igniting in his eyes. "It's all about practice. You pick up a few skills after working in this line of business for a while." Clara paused, contemplating his words. "What did you do before this? I mean, you seem to know a lot about ranching." She was genuinely curious, her interest piqued by the glimmers of knowledge he displayed. Jack shifted slightly, his expression turning serious. "Just a few odd jobs here and there. Nothing worth mentioning." The way he deflected the question left her slightly puzzled, but Clara brushed it off, not wanting to pry too deeply. As they continued to work, Jack began to share more stories about his life, albeit vague ones. He talked about the places he had been, the people he had met, and how he ended up at this ranch. "Sometimes it feels good to escape from everything and just work with my hands, you know?" Clara nodded, her heart swelling at the raw honesty in his words. She could see a flicker of vulnerability in him that mirrored her own fears and dreams. Days passed like gentle waves, and with each sunset, Clara felt her feelings for Jack grow stronger. They shared small confessions, her fear of not belonging anywhere, his dream of a simple life away from the chaos of the world. Yet, beneath the warmth of their camaraderie, Clara sensed an invisible barrier. It was as if a part of Jack was still locked away, and she couldn't quite grasp why. Whenever she felt close to breaking through, he would retreat into silence, his eyes hiding behind a mask that she longed to dismantle. One evening, as the sun began its descent, casting golden rays across the fields, Clara watched Jack from a distance. He stood arms crossed, staring out over the ranch he worked so hard to maintain. The setting sun illuminated his features, highlighting a somber expression she had never seen before. There was something about that moment that struck her, a longing, a deep-rooted desire that seemed to connect them even from afar. Yet the distance in his gaze made her heart ache. It was during those quiet moments alone that Clara found herself wrestling with her emotions. Why couldn't she shake off the feeling that there was more to Jack than met the eye? Every playful tease, every shared laugh, felt suffocated by a question she couldn't articulate. Did he see her for who she truly was? Or was she merely a fleeting distraction from his reality? Those thoughts turned and twisted in her mind, creating a storm she was unsure how to navigate. One afternoon, while Clara was cleaning the barn, she overheard Jack speaking to one of the ranch hands, a weathered man named Hank. She didn't mean to eavesdrop, but the words she caught made her heart race. "I can't keep this up forever," Jack murmured, his tone laced with frustration. "I just want to find someone who loves me for me, not for the money or the title." Clara felt a chill run down her spine. The realization hit her like a sudden gust of wind. Jack was hiding his identity from everyone, even from her. Stunned, she leaned against a nearby wall, trying to steady her breathing. Thoughts swirled in her mind like leaves caught in a tempest. Why had he chosen to pretend to be someone he wasn't? Was their connection real, or just a facade built on deception? The warmth that had once brightened her heart now felt heavy, burdened by the weight of betrayal. Clara's heart raced as she considered the implications of what she had just heard. Everything they had built together felt like a house of cards, and the slightest breeze could bring it all crashing down. Conflicted emotions washed over her. On one hand, she felt anger. Anger at Jack for hiding the truth, for playing a role that contradicted everything he had shared with her. On the other hand, a part of her understood his desire for authenticity. Who wouldn't want to be loved for who they truly were? Yet, as Clara replayed the moments they had shared, she couldn't help but feel a pang of sadness. Had their laughter been genuine, or had it merely been a performance? Clara knew she had to confront Jack. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with dusk, she made her way toward the barn where he often spent his evenings. With every step, her heart pounded louder, anxiety clawing at her insides. Jack was sitting on a stack of hay bales, his head tilted back as he stared at the ceiling. He looked lost, as if the weight of the world rested on his shoulders. For a brief moment she hesitated, unsure if she was prepared to shatter the fragile bond they had created. Taking a deep breath, she chose to speak. "Jack, can we talk?" The softness of her voice sliced through the quiet, pulling him from his reverie. He turned to her, surprise etched across his features. "Of course, Clara. What's on your mind?" There was an innocence in his voice that contrasted sharply with the turmoil inside her. Clara hesitated for a moment, searching for the right words. I overheard you talking to Hank," she finally said, her voice trembling slightly. Jack's expression shifted, uncertainty flickering in his eyes. "What did you hear?" The question hung in the air, heavy with unspoken truths. "You said you wanted to find someone who loves you for you, not your wealth or title," she replied, watching as his face fell to a mask of disappointment. "Is it true? Are you really the ranch owner?" The silence that followed felt like an abyss, swallowing them whole. Clara felt a wave of trepidation wash over her as Jack looked away, guilt written across his features. This was the moment that would either bring them closer or rip them apart. "I didn't want you to find out this way," he finally admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. As they stood there, the sun setting behind the hills surrendered the day to twilight. Clara realized that she was at a crossroads. Their honesty hung in the air, and she knew she had to decide if their connection was strong enough to transcend the deception that loomed between them. As she looked into his eyes, she felt a flicker of hope. Despite everything, a part of her still wanted to believe in the bond they had forged. If you're enjoying this story, make sure to subscribe to the channel. The path ahead was uncertain, but Clara was determined to uncover the truth and decide for herself where they would go from here. Clara stood in the dim light of the barn, her heart racing, a knot of emotions twisting in her stomach as Jack's gaze fell away from hers. The air felt thick, charged with the unspoken truth that loomed between them. Each heartbeat echoed in her ears, urging her to confront the weight of Jack's deception. She had trusted him, allowed herself to be vulnerable, to share dreams and fears, only to find out that everything might have been built on a lie. "Jack," she began, her voice breaking the silence, "why didn't you just tell me?" The question hung heavy, the pain laced in her tone evident. She wanted to scream, to shake him until he confessed everything, but the softness in her heart still clung to hope that perhaps there was an explanation. Jack turned his head slightly, avoiding her gaze, and she could see the conflict in his expression. He was a man caught between two worlds, one of privilege and expectations, and another of authenticity and raw connection. I thought it would be easier this way," he finally admitted, his voice low and filled with regret. "I wanted to see if I could find someone who loved me for me, not for what I own." Clara felt her heart sink further. It was a desire she could understand, yet the betrayal cut deep. "So all those moments we shared, The laughs, the stories. Were they just a part of your act? She asked, her voice trembling. No! Jack exclaimed, finally meeting her gaze. Clara, those moments were real. I care about you more than you know. The sincerity in his eyes sparked a flicker of warmth in her heart, but the cold sting of betrayal overshadowed it. She took a step back, breathing deeply to steady herself. If you truly cared, you would have trusted me enough to be honest from the beginning. Tears welled up in her eyes, but she fought them back. She didn't want to show weakness, not now. I shared my life with you, Jack. I bared my soul thinking you were just a man trying to make ends meet. I saw you as someone I could trust. The words tumbled out, each one a weight that pushed her closer to the edge. And you've turned out to be someone else entirely. Jack ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident in his posture. I thought that by living this way, I could escape the expectations tied to my name. I wanted to know if you could love me without the influence of wealth. Clara shook her head. It felt like a cruel game. But by hiding your true identity, you robbed me of the choice to love you for who you really are. He took a step closer, desperation clouding his features. Clara, please understand. I didn't mean to hurt you. I thought that if I showed you the real me, somewhere along the way I lost track of everything. She studied him, seeing the pain in his eyes that mirrored her own. The truth was complicated, tangled in a web of longing and hurt. I don't know if I can trust you again, she whispered, her heart aching as the words slipped from her lips. This was supposed to be about us, not your charade. A tear slipped down her cheek, and she quickly wiped it away, furious at herself for showing vulnerability. Jack's expression shifted from sadness to determination. I will do anything to earn your trust back, he said, his voice steady. Clara felt the intensity in his words, the sincerity behind them. But how can I believe you now? She challenged, her tone sharper than intended. You've built your life on lies. Jack stepped back, anguish shadowing his features. I understand. I've messed up and I can't change the past. But I need you to know that you mean everything to me. I don't want to lose you. The tension in the air thickened and Clara felt like she was standing on a precipice. There was a part of her that wanted to forgive him, to return to the warmth of their connection, but another part felt the sting of betrayal too acutely. What if this is just another act? She said, her voice small. How can I be sure that the man I thought you were wasn't just another facade? Jack's shoulders slumped, a defeated look crossing his face. I can't promise that I won't make mistakes, but I want to show you who I am. I want to be honest, even when it's hard. Clara studied him carefully, searching for any hint of deception. There was a sincerity in his eyes that tugged at her heart, reminding her of the man she had grown to care for. I just need time, she said finally, her voice softening as she stepped back from the ledge of anger. Jack nodded slowly, understanding the gravity of her words. Take all the time you need, he replied earnestly. As they stood in silence, the world around them faded away. The only thing left was the palpable tension between them. Clara turned away, needing space to process everything. Jack stayed rooted in place, his presence a heavy reminder of the bond that had been tested but not yet broken. Days passed and an emotional distance began to settle in. Clara threw herself into her work, avoiding Jack whenever possible. She didn't want to see him, didn't want to face the pain of their broken trust. But as days turned into weeks, she found herself thinking of him more often. Memories of their shared laughter, the way he listened, how he made her feel alive. Those moments replayed in her mind like a song she couldn't shake. Jack, on the other hand, had become a ghost on the ranch. The lightness in his demeanor was replaced by a quiet intensity. He worked harder than ever, pouring himself into tasks while stealing glances at Clara whenever he could. She could see the regret etched on his face, and it made her heart ache. One fateful evening, Clara was alone in the barn, sorting through supplies when Jack appeared at the entrance. The sight of him sent a rush of conflicting emotions through her, anger, longing, and unresolved hurt. Clara, he said softly, stepping inside with hesitation. Can we talk? She hesitated, torn between wanting to keep her distance and the undeniable pull she felt toward him. Finally, she nodded, crossing her arms. But I don't want to discuss the past. We need to talk about what comes next. Jack nodded, relief washing over his features. They stood facing each other, the air thick with unspoken words. I've had time to think, he began, his voice steady, yet filled with vulnerability. I want to prove to you that I can be honest, that I can be the man you deserve. Clara felt her heart racing again, uncertainty swirling within her. And how do you plan to do that? She challenged, intrigued despite herself. What can you possibly say that will make me believe you? I want to be vulnerable too, he replied, stepping closer. I want to share my life with you, my struggles, my dreams. I want you to know me, not just as the ranch owner, but as Jack, the man who wants to love you, flaws and all. Jack's words hung in the air, and for the first time in weeks, Clara felt a flicker of hope ignite within her. Perhaps it was possible to rebuild what they had lost, to redefine their connection based on honesty. If you're genuinely willing to let me in, to share your truth, then I want to try, she finally said. As the weight of their past began to lift, the first steps toward healing felt fragile but hopeful. If you're enjoying this story, make sure to subscribe to the channel. The journey ahead was uncertain, but Clara was ready to embrace it if it meant discovering the true Jack beneath the layers of pretense. Clara stood outside the barn, the crisp evening air wrapping around her like a comforting blanket. The events of the last few weeks had taken a toll on her spirit, and now as dusk settled over the ranch, she felt the weight of her emotions more intensely than ever. She glanced toward the horizon, where the sun dipped below the hills, casting a warm glow across the landscape. And for a fleeting moment, she wished she could capture that warmth inside her heart. After the confrontation, she had chosen to step back, to give them both space. Day after day, she had busied herself with work, pushing away thoughts of Jack and their shattered trust. Yet every time she heard his laughter echoing through the fields or caught a glimpse of his silhouette against the sunset, her heart would betray her, drumming with a longing she couldn't quite suppress. Inside, Jack too had been lost in a storm of emotions. Although he poured himself into the ranch work, every swing of the hoe or pull of the hay reminded him of Clara. He had been a fool to think he could hide who he was, and now with that knowledge he felt more vulnerable than ever. The truth he had withheld hung heavily in the air, a cloud of doubt shrouding the connection they had built. One night, under a blanket of stars, he made a decision. It was time for honesty, no matter how painful. As he stepped onto the porch of the barn, hoping Clara would be there, his heart raced. He wanted to find her, to plead for a chance to make things right, to show her the man he truly was. When Clara heard Jack's footsteps, she turned, a mix of anticipation and fear bubbling within her. "Jack," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. The sight of him brought a rush of memories flooding back. The laughter, the shared dreams, the moments that made her heart swell, but then the recollection of betrayal crashed over her like a cold wave, leaving her feeling vulnerable and exposed. "I need to talk to you," Jack began, his voice steady but laced with the evident weight of emotion. "Please just hear me out." Clara crossed her arms, her protective barrier instinctively rising, yet she found herself unable to turn away. What could you possibly say that would change anything? "I know I hurt you, I know I lied," he said, stepping closer, desperation glimmering in his eyes. "But I did it because I wanted to find someone who would love me for who I am, not for my title or my wealth. I didn't want to be just the ranch owner. I wanted to experience life as a normal man, to connect with someone without barriers." Tears pricked at the corners of Clara's eyes, the conflict within her surging. "And now? You think I can simply overlook that? You played with my feelings, Jack. You made me believe you were someone you're not." "I didn't mean to deceive you," he replied, his voice breaking slightly. "I thought if I could show you my true self without the facade, we could build something real. But I failed to communicate that, and I see now how wrong it was." Clara took a shaky breath, her heart torn between the remnants of love and the pain of betrayal. You're asking me to forgive you, to trust you again. But how do I know you won't just slip back into your old ways? Jack's expression softened, determination washing over him. You'll have to trust me, Clara. I want to prove to you that I can be the man you deserve. I'm willing to start anew, to lay everything bare. I hope you'll meet me halfway. Her heart raced as she saw the sincerity in his gaze. It was a gamble, one she had been too afraid to take before. What if it doesn't work out? She asked, feeling the tremble in her voice. Then we'll have tried, he said, his voice resolute. But I promise you I won't hide again. I want to be honest, even when it's hard. Silence hung between them, thick with unspoken words and raw emotion. Clara felt a flicker of hope ignite within her heart. Perhaps, just perhaps, there was a chance for them to rebuild what had been lost. I need time, she finally said, feeling the wall she had built around her begin to crack. Take all the time you need, Jack replied, his voice warm and understanding. I'll be here waiting, ready whenever you are. As they stood there under the vastness of the night sky, Clara felt a sense of calm wash over her. It wouldn't be easy and there would be moments of doubt, but the possibility of rekindling their connection filled her with a sense of purpose. Over the next few weeks, Clara allowed herself to open up just a little. Jack worked hard to prove his intentions were genuine, sharing bits of his world with her, explaining the beauty of running the ranch, and even his struggles with living up to the legacy of his family. Slowly, Clara began to see the man behind the title, the kindness and softness that lay hidden beneath his earlier pretense. Their interactions became more frequent, peppered with laughter and moments of shared vulnerability. Clara found herself leaning into their connection, allowing her heart to soften as she let Jack in. He was earnest, dedicated, and despite the rocky start, she could feel a bond growing stronger each day. One crisp morning, as they sat together on the porch, sipping coffee, Clara reflected on how far they had come. You know, she began, her voice thoughtful, your honesty is refreshing. It's not perfect, but I appreciate that you're trying. Jack smiled, his heart swelling with hope. That's all I've ever wanted, to be real with you. I hope we can keep building from here. Clara nodded, and in that moment they both understood that love isn't just about perfection. It's about growth, acceptance, and the willingness to face the challenges that life throws their way. As they sat in silence, the sun beginning to rise anew, Clara felt a surge of gratitude. Here was the man she admired, flawed, yet striving for something real. She knew their journey was just beginning, but with each step they took together, the shadows of the past seemed to fade, replaced by a burgeoning promise of something beautiful and lasting. Comment on what your favorite moment was, and turn on notifications. Their story was far from over, but for Clara and Jack, the future finally looked bright.